just got the word. We are live.
All right, good. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Now I need to launch diligent.
Okay, Ms. Curry. Ms. Curry.
All
Okay.
right.
We are up. Live
All right.
stream is live, and we are ready to start when you are.
All right. If we could call the meeting to order for the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. And Dr. Red, if you do the roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay? I'm assuming you can hear me all right.
I can.
All right, very good. Ms. Pamela Curry,
Here.
Dr. Christine Darden, Dr. Darden.
Here.
You. All right, good morning. Mr. William Murray,
Here.
Mr. Xavier Richardson, Mr. Xavier Richardson. Mr. Wayne Turnage, Mr. Wayne Turnage, Mr. Gregory Worley,
Here.
Mr. Huron Winstead, Rector,
Good morning.
and we would like to acknowledge our faculty and student representatives, Dr. Zoe Spencer,
Here.
Mr. Cameron Gray, Mr. Cameron Gray, okay, Madam Chair. I believe I did call Mr. I know Mr. Hill is here. We're having technical difficulties. He's actually in the meeting, but he does not have sound or video at this point, but he is in the meeting.
Okay.
Here.
Excuse me?
This is Glenn. I'm here, Dr. Red.
I'm sorry, who is that, please?
Glenn Sessoms.
Oh, Mr. Sessoms. Thank you. We want to acknowledge our board member, Mr. Glenn Sessoms. Are there any other board members who are not on the committee present? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Hall, I heard you earlier. Are you able to give us the invocation?
It would be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Dear God, thank you for your grace, mercy, and love. You have granted us the necessary measure of health and energy to gather here for this meeting.
I think we got a few minutes.
Grant us success today and help us to remember
Thank you.
it's all about you and not us. May we have meaningful conversations about how to support and strengthen the university. Help us to share things that will benefit our students and our mission to transform lives. Guide our thoughts, our hearts, as we deal with challenges that are not only impacting our university, but the entire nation. May we approach each other with respect and thoughtfulness. Lord, create an environment of cooperation in this place. Help us to be one in spirit. In your mighty name we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Hall. You have the agenda before you. I think yesterday we decided to pull one item that was on our agenda and move it to the full board agenda. And that's the presentation on the new HBCU course that's getting such good publicity for the university. Real thrilled to hear about that. But it's enough interest that we'll do it for the full board. So the updated agenda is in diligent, and I'd hear a motion to approve that. If I could get a motion. So moved. Who was that?
Mr. Winstead.
Thank you, Mr. Winstead. All right. You also I don't need a second for that, do I? Sorry.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Now I can. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I offered the motion, but I think I must was on mute or something. I apologize.
Oh, hey, we're all there. Okay. So with that, if I could get an approval for the previous minutes, those were available in diligent, or any comments, additions, or changes.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, now we have the pleasure of selecting a vice chair for the committee. Do I hear any nominations from the floor? I think Mr. Hill had some thoughts on this, but I think it's not working. Can I?
Okay, there we are. We have it.
Okay. So procedurally, I don't know if I can nominate someone. Can I do that as the chair?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to nominate Dr. Darden to be vice chair. Do I have a second from the floor?
I have a second. Yes.
Thank you, sir. And all in favor, say aye, if you would.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? And with modern technology, if there's any opposed, you can always put in the chat section if you wanted to register opposition. Any opposed? All right. Dr. Darden, thank you so much for your willingness to do this. I know you got volunteered for it, and I really appreciate your willingness to do this.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm going to go on mute now, and I'm going to turn it over to our esteemed president.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here at the meeting. It's always a pleasure to see everybody and a pleasure to share information about Virginia State University. I'll first kind of walk through a little bit of the decision. Thank you all for being available to communicate during the process of making the decision not to invite students back to campus. It kind of goes without saying that the most important denominator, if you will, in making that decision was health and safety for Virginia State University, making sure that our students, our faculty and staff had the best way to be safe here on campus. It was a challenging decision. As you can imagine, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, there are certainly fiscal impacts to that decision that will be discussed more tomorrow. But there are other impacts also, that some of which you'll see in this meeting. And so I wanted to kind of set that up. One of the concerns that we had, of course, is that there's some students who really wanted the in-person experience and wanted to be back on campus. And once they knew that we wouldn't be back, we weren't inviting them back for a residential experience on campus, that they may choose to sit out a semester or sit out a year. And so we have seen that. Our enrollment is just about 3,700. I would anticipate it getting close to, I think Dr. Palm said 38 or 3,900, but that is still below where we were looking to be before we made the announcement. And so that is pretty significant. And the idea that bringing first-year students back for their second year, there are some students, again, who have decided that they would rather wait to have the in-person experience. And so that's one of the challenges that we knew we would face. And we are certainly facing it as we go forward. And so you'll see that in your thing. The other thing that we've started to talk about and do is to look at two things. One is a process improvement committee. And I'm not sure that'll come up today or tomorrow. But one of the things that we've learned from having to do everything remotely is that in some ways there's a disconnect for our customer service between our systems and our people. And again, I don't think that that's a statement on our people, and I don't think it's a statement on our systems, but when we've had to rely on them to do totally remote registration, validation, it's pointed out some of the challenges and some of the flaws in our systems. And so we've got a committee led by Dr. Menace, who is who's the executive director of our institutional effectiveness and also runs SACS. A team of individuals across campus, not with the titles, that was very important to me, but those people who are on the ground, who are seeing what's happening day to day, whether they be in Res Life or financial aid, who are coming together to do that work. And so I'm excited about that. Second, I think it's going to be critically important as we begin to move forward that we revisit the strategic plan and start to look at how do we reshape or remake Virginia State University in this world of COVID and after COVID. Just to give you an idea, there's some things that we have clearly achieved in our strategic plan already, and some things that we're probably going to do a little different. The obvious examples, of course, are that we had a staggered way to get to improve our level of online courses. And I believe in 2025, we probably set a target of probably 15 to 20% of our courses would be online. Well, of course, we've reached 100% of our classes being remote, and almost all of our faculty being trained. And Dr. Palm will talk about that. And so that's something that, of course, we've had to do quickly. Everybody in the country has had to do quickly. And so we're proud that we've gotten that done. But then on the other hand, we also were looking to increase the number of students who studied abroad. And to gradually increase those numbers. Well, you can imagine that we have 0 students studying abroad right now, and the numbers and how that increases will greatly depend on how the country and how the world deals with the coronavirus epidemic. And so in light of those two, and there are many more, of course, we think it's quite beneficial for us to go back and take a look and put another committee together. And so we're looking to put a committee together that involves faculty, staff, and students and alums to really revisit the strategic plan and look at how we remake Virginia State University in this very difficult time. The good news is we've gotten good at doing things very quickly. And so I think that this is something that we can definitely handle over the next couple of months. One of the reasons, and I didn't cover this, but I probably should have when I first started, one of the reasons also, again, as I move away from health and safety, that the decision was made to not invite students back residentially is part of what you see happening in the country where universities have reversed course and have invited students to be on campus in a residential capacity, and then had to turn around and make their classes totally online and to ask students to vacate the residence halls. We really felt like that this was the worst case scenario, partially because it then sent infected students back into their communities where they could have and raise the infection rate in their communities. And so I was very pleased with the advice that I got from my faculty and staff, and pleasantly, I think, awakened by the level of care and concern that everyone showed for campus. I think everyone was disappointed, but yet ready and willing to move forward. And so some of what you'll hear today from Dr. Palm is a little bit of the challenges that we face moving forward, but also I think how we've been able to really engage students in student affairs in this very difficult time, and the great work of the faculty who, again, kind of turned on a dime to make sure that their classes were remote and are providing a quality education for our students. And so with that, Ms. Curry, I am done, and I pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know I've sent you all several articles along the way. Just personally, I continue to think that the decision was right. It was difficult, but definitely right. We didn't, I think yesterday, last night maybe, there's a student coalition now around campuses and whether they're keeping the students safe. So as difficult as the decision and the continuing ramifications of it, I just think it was the right thing to do. So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Rector, for your leadership on that. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment, or we can move on? All right, hearing none. And again, if I'm not hearing you, if I'm ignoring you, I'm keeping an eye on the chat box. So, and I'm sure Dr. Red is as well. I don't want to squelch any discussion. So just raise your hand or do something so that we see you and we will figure out how to get your voice heard. Moving on, Dr. Palm, we have one action item and then some discussion and informational items that I know everybody's interested in. If you'd like to take it away, unmute yourself and take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
First of all, again, good morning, Mr. Director, Madam Chair, and the rest of the Board of Visitors. Mr. Harris, if you can assist me with the PowerPoint presentation, that would be great. With the screen share. Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and go to the first slide, sir. So again, this will be the outline. We'll talk about a little bit more about enrollment, the enrollment overview, the 6-year graduation rate, retention, some great things that Virginia State University is doing with innovation, a little update with the student success and engagement, some new programs that are on the slate for approval. Also talk a little bit about the Outstanding Faculty Award that has just been approved, as well as I've saved the post-tenure review process, the action item, to the last item for us to get to, and we'll actually I'll give you a little detail about that as well. Next slide.
Dr. Palm.
Yes.
This is Greg Worley, Madam Chair, Dr. Palm, and I didn't know when to raise this issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was going to do that when Dr. Abdullah was speaking, but, you know, from what I can determine, the board received a letter from some concerned members. We've had over 300 signatures, and they're concerned particularly about enrollment. And their concern was that we are concerned that the student enrollment, retention, and graduation rates have been trending downward over the year, year over year, or showing modest improvement. These trends make our university long-term sustainable suspect. We desire to learn and understand how these and other key performance indicators are managed, including corrective actions where warranted and owner accountability for planned results. If you could make certain that you address those comments in your presentation, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
I can address it, Mr. Worley, if you don't mind. So we did get that letter, and a response to that letter has gone out already to them. We also had an alumni town hall where I kind of walked through, me and Dr. Palm walked through enrollment, graduation rate, retention rate, endowment, the amount of money in reserves, and also tried to point out where all of the data existed, because I think there was also a challenge of whether things were transparent. And one of the things that we wanted to let people know is that, of course, we are a public institution, and so all of our information, all of the data that exists is available. And so pointing it out in different places online. I've also asked reached out to them to ask them, and I believe they've gotten this today, so I hope that we don't find out first on video that if the town hall wasn't the best place to have the meeting, that I'm more than open to having a face-to-face meeting with the concerned alumni. The gentleman who wrote the letter. And so I've asked for that if they would like to have that. And so we are in contact with them and look forward to continuing our relationship with our alumni who are concerned about and love Virginia State University.
Dr. Abdullah, you said you've already sent a response. Is it appropriate? Is it possible for you to send that to the board members who received that initial letter?
Yes. And let me make sure I said it right. Dr. Red, has our response gone out? Dr. Red must be on the phone, so I will check with her later. But yes, I will make sure that those responses get to the Board of Visitors. Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent. Mr. Worley, any follow-up?
No, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make certain that we've addressed those issues. So where you can expound on those in the meeting, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Abdullah, I think you're going to go ahead and take this first slide. I'm going to go ahead and take the second one.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to take this because it goes directly into the comment that I said earlier. As you look at admits, engaged, and deposits for the fall of 2020, what you'll see is that those numbers, admits and engaged, were higher than the fall of 2019. We had some students kind of back out of the deposit and ask for refunds. So that number was initially higher, though it's not higher right now. But you can see the deposits for freshmen at 1126 and deposits last year at 1131. And then we validated just about 800 students. There's a couple of more students in the pipeline, but that's probably where we're going to end up, is close to 800. And so we've had about an attrition of about 200 students, 200 freshmen who kind of made the decision that that being here when we don't have students on campus is not the best thing for them. And so we're going to, of course, chase them. We are looking to bring students back in the spring. And so we definitely are going to go after them to make sure that they're coming, but just kind of wanted to show you where that shows up, particularly with the freshmen and with the transfers, and where it's actually showed up with returning students also. And I think Dr. Palm is going to show that. Dr. Paul?
Yes.
Just one question there. In terms of follow-up for particularly the 300 students that made deposits and didn't validate, aggressive even during this semester, continuing to send them the love from Virginia State? I would hate to lose those students, not even that much for us, but for them. I'd hate to lose them to all the other calls that life will give.
Agreed. No, we're being very aggressive with them. And also we're being aggressive looking at talking with the state about potential financial aid opportunities. I think one of the things that you know is that Chev is beginning to see that the loss in college enrollment that's happening across the state is among low-income students. And so one of the things that's critically important that one, we continue to send them the love, but we also find a way to see if we can send them some more money too. So.
Well, and you know, the state has the Talent, Innovation, and Equity Grant from the Lumina Foundation. And so they are very focused in, as is the governor, on ensuring that low-income and particularly underrepresented populations succeed. I know, did you speak to the presidents and Chev this week, Dr. Abdullah?
I did with Mike Rouse, spoke to the Chev and the presidents about the challenges of reopening and about what we need to do for our students to not lose a generation of students. So yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Hall?
And Dr. Abdullah also, I know Mr. Hall had also mentioned a number of these students also have deferred to the spring also. And so not sure of that number, but again, it's good to know that there are admissions officers staying in touch with these students and really trying to work them through as well. Next slide, Mr. Harris. So, and I'm sorry, this again, hopefully everybody can see this on the screen. So daily we monitor the validation as well as the registrations for our students. And I know when we got out the gate, we had about 4,406 students registered. To date, we have about 3,667 students validated. As Dr. Abdullah mentioned, we'll probably get to about 3,800 towards the end of the validation process. We also have the number of students in the actual status of our students, or the actual whether they're first time in college students or actually transfer students. If you come down to the very bottom part of it, you can see our first time in college students. We have about 803 students that have been validated. About 1,063 students are registered. And so we are working with trying to get those students to date validated as we move forward. We have had some issues with the validation process. As you know, that we usually have the one-stop shop down at Daniel's Gym that really provides a great opportunity for our students to work through a lot of their financial issues. And so some of the things that we're dealing with right now, just with the online or virtual validation process, is that we have students without FAFSA on file. We also have had students that are not signing their promissory notes, or students are not accepting the loans that are offered to them through the Banner system. Parents are not signing the PLUS loan promissory notes. Students are not completing their entrance counseling. Students are not correctly submitting information for verification. So there's a number of different issues that we're working through, and our staff is working around the clock to try to help each and every student to get through these particular issues. And so we're going to continue working to get students validated, and those who want to be here at the university validated as we move forward. Next slide, please. Next, I wanted to move into our 6-year graduation rate.
I'm sorry, Dr. Palm. This is
Yes, sir.
early. I couldn't hit the button quick enough. Madam Chair, I would like to ask a couple questions on the enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
It is my understanding that there was a presentation made at Chev that talked about enrollment in the colleges over the state and the universities over the Commonwealth. Only saw a decline of about 600 students in total. When I look at these numbers, it appears as though we are down almost 400 students.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that presentation, and I don't know if I have my facts correct, that there are only about 6 colleges or universities that saw a slight decline in their enrollment. It appears as though we're losing our students. Can you address that situation for me?
Yes. So there's a number of different areas that we're looking at. One is that, of course, we decided to go remote. We knew going into this semester, and even when we ended last semester, that we did a survey of our students. The majority of our students wanted to be here on campus. And so what I would tell you is that that has had an impact on students returning back to campus itself. When we take a look at also the number of impact on the African American community, and we do know that in certain institutions, of course, we have a high Pell grant as far as recipient students, that Black community has been impacted significantly. And so I think there's a number of different issues that we're dealing with consistently. Now, what I would also tell you is that when we take a look at enrollment also, is that we're also graduating more students. So there's a number of different things that are happening simultaneously. It's just not all about bringing the students in up front. It's a matter of the persistence. And so we're putting in a number of different systems, as well as monitoring our students and really trying to enhance that persistent rate for our students, not only for just retention, but also making sure that that they are persistent. Now, a lot of it isn't really associated with grades. Also, it's really the engagement. We want to make sure that our students are engaged. If you take a look at our student athletics, our student athletes, they persist and they graduate because they are engaged. And so we're ramping up the engagement here at the university. We are trying to actually monitor and really look at the data and monitor the students as they are coming through as far as persistence, and really getting our hands wrapped around and putting particular programs together and really trying to implement some of the areas of the strategic plan to make sure that that happens. And so, yes, there are opportunities for us to enhance enrollment. But again, there's a number of different things, especially going directly remote, had an impact on us.
Reference to
No, go ahead.
In reference to the African American community or students, I was understanding that maybe a sister agency of ours or university is actually growing their enrollment during this pandemic period. So what is it that this university is doing that we're not doing? I didn't mention the name, but I think you know who I'm referring to.
Mr. Worley, I would say this, that the number one reason, and it was part of what made this a difficult decision, is because I know how many challenges that we've had around enrollment over the past couple of years. But we were the only institution in the Commonwealth of Virginia to choose not to invite students back for a residential experience. As a matter of fact, we are one of the few public institutions in the country outside of California to do that as an initial idea. All of the schools that have done that have seen a reduction because students really want to, if you can imagine, they really want to get out of the house. There's not a shortage of students who want to go to college right now and who want to have a residential experience, no matter what that experience is. And for some of our students, they chose either to wait or to choose a different institution. Sometimes, quite possibly in some cases, the institution that you referenced but didn't name. And this will be in our world, of course, of higher education. Enrollment kind of comes in class at a time. And so one of the things, to be honest, that was a big part of the decision and kind of weighed the other way in terms of maybe having us invite students back residentially, is that if we have a smaller first time in college cohort, a smaller freshman class, that by definition means a smaller sophomore class for that class next year, a smaller junior class in 2 years for that same exact class. And so that the ramifications of the decision that was made would not only show up in this year's enrollment, but could quite possibly show up in years to come. And so I do understand it's not the direction that we wanted to go, but I believe that the number one reason, when you look at all of the numbers coming into the fall semester and where the numbers were trending, whether those were registrations, whether those were deposits, that we had an abrupt switch and change as we began to delay on campus stuff and then decide not to invite students back in a residential way. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I do believe when you talk about the other institution, and we'll just whisper Norfolk State real good. We won't say it out loud. We'll whisper it. I do believe that when we open full time and have residential students on campus, I think that there is a new hunt and a new excitement for students to be on campus. And so I think that we will have a resurgence, as many institutions have seen this fall, but we will have to wait to have ours for when we open up and invite students for residential experience.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would, and members of the committee, I would also offer a point of personal reflection on this. I was at Virginia Commonwealth University, the finance person there, when Dr. Rao came on board. And Dr. Trani, the prior president, it was grow, baby, grow. He wanted to be the largest institution in Virginia. He didn't want George Mason to catch up. It was really very much the thing. And during the course of the strategic plan, and it took a few years to come to it, but a former provost there said, yes, we're an access institution, but access to mediocrity, and I'm not saying any other institution is mediocre, but access to mediocrity is worse than access to nothing for students. If you can't graduate them, then you've done them the worst disservice. They're going to have debt and they're not going to have a degree, potentially. And so it was a very difficult decision financially and reputationally to back off that grow concept. And, at VCU, it's at a much larger scale than at Virginia State. But the focus turned inward to improving retention. And when I look at the 6-year graduation rate, that's the kind of metrics that VCU turned around along the way. So I understand the discussion of enrollment, and I know VCU had a lot more to buffer itself when the decision was made to focus on quality as opposed to quantity. But I don't ever want Virginia State to get so focused on quantity that we're doing a disservice to the students. And we found exactly what Dr. Palm mentioned. We were graduating students more quickly, and we weren't pushing to bring in as large of classes. So we were, from both sides of it, lower enrollment. So that's just my personal reflection, and I will turn it back over to Dr. Palm.
Thank you, Visitor Curry.
Dr. Palm, Madam
Yes.
Chair, can I interject really quickly? I wanted to raise 2 points about our graduation rates too. As a sociologist, I wanted to point out that our graduation rates are dependent on our enrollment rates. And where enrollment rates either increase or decrease, you cannot do a comparative analysis from one year to another. So I want to be careful with us using our graduation rates as a steady across the board and not accounting for the way that the enrollment impacts graduation rates. We can graduate one person out of one, and that's 100%. So I wanted to make sure that when we're talking about graduation rates, we're actually doing a comparative analysis and we're accounting for the changes in the enrollment rates when we calculate the graduation rates to be able to determine whether our graduation rates are increasing or decreasing. So I just wanted to point that out. And also, I wanted to, this is my last academic affairs meeting as faculty senate chair. And so I wanted to make sure, with all due respect, in respecting Visitor Curry's analysis of VCU, I want to be clear that the university community, of course, and I'm sure President Abdullah, I'm sure you are as well as Dr. Palm, we're all concerned about our enrollment rates. And at this point in time, I think that it is really, really important that Virginia State be viewed as Virginia State and it be viewed in our unique capacity and not be compared to other institutions. I think it's dangerous when we at our institution begin to view growing enrollment as a reduction in quality of education, or when we begin to take the stances of other larger institutions at our institution. So I did want to just make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer.
So again, Dr. Spencer, as I walk through the 6-year graduation rate, you'll see that actually truly what you were talking about, that's how our graduation rate is actually measured and actually calculated. So for the new board members, I want to just take a few minutes to actually go through this particular table. If you look further to the left, you'll see that we have several years of graduation rates. So we have the first time in college, of course, that is our cohorts that come in each year. So if you take a look across, you'll see fall 2010, the number of students who came in that particular cohort, right, all the way up to 2015. If you take a look on the far left, coming down the column, you'll see that there's a 4-year graduation rate for those students, a 5-year graduation rate for those students, as well as a 6-year graduation rate. And one of the things that we report is the 6-year graduation rate, and we report that to the federal government. And the reason why we report that to the federal government is that our students are eligible for 6 years of financial aid. So of course, the federal government wants to know exactly how well students are doing with receiving financial aid. And so if you look at down all the way to the bottom, you'll see that the graduation rate, 44% for 2010, for 2011, 42%, 39%, 38%, as 46% for the fall of 2014. So what we're talking about, if you come down to the column with fall of 2010, students who started in the fall of 2010, after 4 years, 308 of those students graduated with a 25% graduation rate for 4 years. After 5 years, 505 of those students graduated with a total of a 40% graduation rate. And then by the 6th year, 544 of them graduated to give you a 44% graduation rate. Okay, and so that is very important. Now, what I would tell you is that we want our students to graduate, and we really want our students to graduate in 4 years. But again, the fact that we do report the 6-year graduation rate, that is so important that we also manage and monitor that as well. If you come back all the way over to 2013, fall of 2013, you'll see that our 4-year graduation rate was at 24%. 5-year was at 38%. And of course, the actual fall of 2013 cohort 6-year graduation rate was at 38%. When I say the 6-year graduation rate, the fall 2013 cohort would have graduated in 2019. You take a look at the fall 2010 cohort, they would have graduated in 2016. This fall 2014 cohort is the cohort that graduated in 2020, this past May. As you can see that their 4-year graduation rate was at 28%. Their 5-year graduation rate was at 43%. And if you take a look at their 6-year graduation rate, it has jumped 8 percentage points up to 46% for the fall 2014 cohort. As you can see, what are we doing for the fall 2015 cohort? Of course, we don't have that 6-year graduation rate yet. But if you compare the graduation rate or their 4-year graduation rate across the board to all those other years, you'll see that we're at 32%. That's the highest it's ever been with regards to the 4-year graduation rate. You take a look at the 5-year graduation rate, we're already at 44% of that class is about to graduate. And that's the highest as that it has ever been for the fall for the 5-year. And of course, the 46% is one of the highest that Virginia State University has had for that actual percentage. If you take a look at our 5-year average, it's about 42%. What I would tell you is that the average 6-year graduation rate for all 4-year institutions of higher education is about 61%, about 65%. As well as if you take a look at least for this cohort of, well, I'll hit that on the next slide. But what I would tell you is that moving into the fall of 2016, looking at that cohort, we do have some preliminary data. And again, we're looking at, we have dropped back down to about a 24% 4-year graduation rate. And again, so we're monitoring the graduation rate as we move forward. But it's a very important indicator of how well we're doing across each of our areas with improving graduation.
Dr. Paul?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. That's what I wanted to point out for in looking at the data, and what I want to be clear about statistically with the numbers. When you look at the numbers on your slide, the percentages at your 4-year graduation, if you notice between 2010 with the 25% and 2015 with the 32% 4-year graduation rate, if you look at the top, those numbers are impacted by the decrease in the total number that you're basing the graduation rate on. So if you just look at that in isolation, people may assume that our graduation rates are going up. However, if you look at it comparatively, in order to get a true accounting or a true comparison, it's okay. These numbers are statistically correct, given the number 242 divided by 766 equals 32%. However, when you look at the decline in the total number that we are basing the graduation rates on, and you do a comparative analysis, you'll see that while the graduation rates may on surface look like they're increasing, they're actually decreasing by way of the reduction in the total number of students that rate is being calculated on. So I just wanted to point that out so that we can be clear when we're given. Otherwise, it's a misnomer that our graduation rates are going up, because you can't make those comparisons.
No, but Dr. Spencer, this is a standard way of calculating the graduation rate with iPads and everywhere else. What I would tell you is that, and again, I think that when you take a look at the graduation rates are going up when compared to the actual cohorts, and that's how the standard way of calculating graduation rates are. So again, when you take a look across the board, and I think that's very important, you also have to take a look at the average, of course, how we're doing across the board. But again, it's a year by year calculation that occurs. And so this is the standard way that we do it. The federal government wants us to do it this way. And so we have to do it this way, but also you can compare how well you did with that cohort. And so what happens
Right.
when a cohort comes in, we have to take care of them for 6 years and make sure that they get across the finish line. But we're being assessed and really being monitored from the federal government how well we're doing that. And I think it's very
That
important.
cohort,
That cohort.
cohort, but we're not
It's cohort.
comparing cohorts to cohorts, though. We're dealing with that cohort for that year, yes?
That cohort for that
That's
year, but
all.
again, you can see that that cohort did better than the previous year.
Madam
Excuse me,
Chair,
Dr.
Madam Chair, this is
who
Dr.
is-
Sample. May I follow up, make another comment about
Well,
a quick, very quick
okay.
comment? I'll keep it under 60 seconds, I promise.
Okay, hang on one second, Dr. Sample. So we have two representatives from the faculty attending and participating in this meeting. To the extent that we do that, I don't want to have, trying to think of the term, an ongoing debate with the presenter on these things. I think Dr. Palm has said several times, and I will agree, that the way that Virginia State is calculating and presenting these numbers and the calculations are the industry standard. It's required by the federal government, and it's what is used in calculating students' ability for financial aid. So it is what is reported in across the board by institutions. It's not a home-cooked thing. Okay, Dr. Sample?
Yes, and I'm not trying to continue any debate. I just wanted to ask a question, if it were possible to have a 6-year graduation rate to share with the board based on current data, because this is old data, perhaps reflecting the 6-year graduation rate starting with 2015 through 2020. I know we don't have 2020 yet, but the data here on this chart is, data that was presented by prior administration, and it would be probably helpful to the board and everyone to have current data. I mean, we do have an excellent institutional research component that's compiling data all the time for Chev, and I would think it probably would be most helpful in terms of policy making, strategy setting, and also understanding trends if it were possible to share with the board and with the faculty the last 6-year graduation rate and not going back to the beginning of the prior decade. So that's all I wanted to say. If we could have current data. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Sample. And again, according to our bylaws, we should only have one faculty representative. So you and Dr. Spencer have to decide who it is who's going to speak. I would also say that when you talk about a 6-year graduation rate, by nature, you have to go, you don't know what it is yet. We could present, as they have, the 5-year rates, but I think the only more recent data they could provide would be the fall 2016 students who graduated within 4 years. So you'd step it up one more row. And we always, so I'm sure they'd be happy to provide that. I'm sure Dr. Menace has that and could provide it to us. Thank you.
I want to make sure that, again, and then we'll move on, I know, but this is not old data. The fall 2014 cohort graduated in 2020. That's the 6-year graduation rate. And so that data was actually just submitted to Chev. And so that 46% is current data. And so, again, you have to move it up to 6 years in order to get the current data. Okay, so I'm going to move on.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Let me jump in just for a second, because I wanted to kind of come back to, and I shouldn't, but Dr. Spencer just mentioned, I think it's one of the things that's critically important, and that's why the numbers are here, is the idea that how does the size in class affect graduation rate? And I think that's something that we're actively studying to see how that works. Is there a sweet spot for us in terms of graduation rate? Again, these graduation rate numbers are the numbers, but they are definitely impacted by the size of the class and our ability to provide quality service to those classes. And so I think that's a very important question that we can continue to ask and answer as we move forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah.
Next slide, Mr. Harris.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, this is Greg Worley. I apologize. I keep forgetting to hit this unmute button. Could you go back to that slide one more time, please?
Yes.
If you look at this slide, and I think we need to be careful what words we use, because we've made statements, the administration have made statements that we've graduated more students. And when you look at this, and I'm just looking at your numbers, for the 4-year graduation rate, in 2010, we graduated 308. In 2015, we graduated 242. So that's a decline. And in the 5th year, we graduated 505 students in 2010. But in 2015, we graduated 338 students. If you look at your 6-year graduation rate, you said we graduated in 2010, 544 students. And in 2014, we graduated 415. In each one of those categories, we are graduating less students. But we've spoken, when we talk to our alums and others at various events, we say we are graduating more. And we're not graduating more. We're in fact graduating less. So, Madam Chair, I do have a couple of questions on that enrollment. If we could go back to that for just a quick second. My question on the enrollment, does our declining enrollment, will we have to repay any money to the state as a result of our declining enrollment? So how does that process work in terms of them determining how much money, the state determining how much money we get based on our enrollment? And if our enrollment doesn't hold up to our projections, what happened? I'm just seeking information.
Right. And it's sort of a misnomer that our funding is based on enrollment, the way base adequacy works. But I hear the president was starting to respond, and also know Mr. Davenport is on. I think Mr. Davenport is on the line. But we're not subject to any problem with the state in the near term.
So the declining enrollment does not have an impact on the funds that we get each year?
No.
No,
Okay.
not the way the ever-changing base adequacy formula works.
Okay.
Dr. Abdullah?
Well, I think that answers my question.
Okay, I was going to answer similarly, that the way that it's the way we're allocated money from the state is not directly by enrollment, and so it doesn't our yearly allocation doesn't change based on that. Though it can change for any other reason, it doesn't change based on that, not directly.
It could change.
Yeah, the state is looking at different ways to allocate funding. It's always looking at different ways.
Right.
And so based on percent of students in lower income, percent of underrepresented students, there are a lot of different things that they do. They don't stick with a base at the formula. And so it's just kind of interesting how the state allocates funding, and our enrollment decrease would not have an impact on that.
Chair, could we set that as an agenda item for the future meeting, just so I can understand as a board member what impacts the appropriations that we get each year?
Well, it might be something that perhaps Kevin and the president and I could sit down and with you first maybe and see if it's worthy for the rest of the committee. It's probably more something that finance and facilities would look at, but the base adequacy funding, I've got 100-page PowerPoints I'd be delighted to go over with you and bore you to tears, I'm sure, but it might be something that we should just do us initially or something. But we can see about that. Happy to do it.
That would be fine. And what would be our projections for student enrollments for the future?
I'm
I
sorry?
don't, we don't have those just yet, Mr. Whirling, but we can bring them back to the committee.
Okay, I
Yeah,
do
I
have
think
a,
those are,
go ahead.
I think those aren't due to the state until the spring sometime. And they may even be given a little leeway given the current environment. Dr. Abdullah?
No, same. I was gonna say we don't have them now, but we will bring them back to the board when we have them.
And the projections of our enrollment for this year is what is that amount?
About 38. We're at about 3,700 now. We're
Okay.
working through about another 100 or so students.
Okay.
And so I think we can get to 3,800, maybe 39, but probably 3,800.
And would that be full-time students?
That would be head count. That would be head count. So we can break
So
that down also.
what our full-time student count would be, because I think that's the key for the data that we get from this academic affairs, to me, is important as we look at the budget for the year. And I know this is not a budget committee,
Right.
but I really would like to know the full-time count, and I think that's within this committee.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had the enrollment slides a couple back, but I'm sure that I'm sure Dr. Minnis has full-time and part-time. We're predominantly full-time at
Well, the
Virginia
only reason I
State.
asked the question, Madam Chair, because sometimes we've been a bit inconsistent in presenting that data. Sometimes we present head counts, sometimes we present the full-time, and I just wanted to make certain that I know what I'm looking at. You know, for example, our full-time count, based on what I'm seeing, is down a few years ago from 4,340 down to 3,652. I don't quite know. I would be very interested in seeing that data, because I believe that's really about our ability to get through this crisis that we are in. So I do appreciate getting some additional information on that.
I probably
All
can
right,
bring
we'll get
forth
that prepared.
I can bring forth some additional information during the finance committee tomorrow on President Worley's question.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Davenport. And I can remember the frustration when I was reporting things, because some requirements of the states and the feds require you to do head count, some require you to do full-time, part-time. Your graduation rate is based on first time in college. So yeah, there are a lot of different numbers floating around out there, and each one is sort of prescribed for different purposes. So we can thank you, Mr. Davenport. Look forward to seeing that. If we're ready now, we'll go back to Dr. Palm.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I just want to also just commend the faculty, as well as ACE, as well as the students for that 46% graduation rate. Again, one of the reasons that we're here is to graduate students. So just want to commend them for the great work that they're doing. Next slide, please. So one of the things I wanted to do, again, just to put things in perspective, if we take a look at all of the public HBCUs, four-year institutions, and see, basically compare apples to apples on where Virginia State University falls with regards to the 6-year graduation rate. And if you take a look at the 2012 cohort, which would have graduated in 2018, and this is coming from IPED's data, that Virginia State University is in the top 11 HBCUs with regards to their graduation rate, at 39%, tied with a number of other institutions. As I mentioned before, that the graduation rate for four-year institutions in general is about 61 to 62%. So as you can see, that Virginia State University is doing well. Next slide, please.
Dr. Palm, just as a reminder to me, how many public HBCUs are there?
Oh, I'm sorry. There are 40 public HBCUs. So out of the 40 public HBCUs, Virginia State has fallen at number 11.
Great, thank you.
And the average graduation rate for those HBCUs is about 32%. And so you can see that Virginia State University is doing well compared to those other ones. Again, wanted to take a look at I'm sorry. Want to take a look at the retention rate. And again, just in general for the new members, again, retention rate is, again, you have a cohort of first-time and college students who attend the university in any particular year. And the number of students who return that following year in the fall is considered our retention rate. As you can see that for the fall 2018, we were at 65% retention rate. As you can see that as over a 5-year average, our retention rate is about 70%. I would tell you this fall of 2019, we don't have all of the data yet because we're still doing validation. That retention rate is going to be reduced just again for a number of different reasons, but we're looking at probably a retention rate of about 59 to 60% with regards to the fall 2019. We will have that data probably at the next board meeting because we will have completed validation. We again want to make sure that we get these students validated, but what we're seeing is that again those students because of COVID and the fact that we have not opened up this this semester, that that retention rate is going to be somewhat lower, just in anticipation of that particular rate. Next slide, please. Again, I wanted to compare the apples with retention rate with the 2018 cohort with regards to the 40 public HBCUs, 4-year institutions, and looking at those particular institutions. Virginia State University falls number 13 out of the 40. The average for all institutions is about 81%. But again, the average for the HBCUs is just a little bit under 64%. So we are just a slight bit above average. But again, at the end of the day, Virginia State University is about number 13 when we look at retention rates for that particular cohort of 2018. Next.
Madam Chair, Dr. Palm.
Yes.
I'm continuing to very concerned about this retention, and I know we have a pandemic, but looking at pre-pandemic, the numbers that you reported, yes, the percentage rates are down, but we're retaining over 200 and let's say 50 students less. It's down. So what specifically are we doing to stop this slide in retention, this slide of our students not coming back?
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Worley. And again, of course, we are always concerned about increasing our retention rate. We're doing a number of different things, and I'll go through some of them in a few minutes. But what I would tell you again is really what we've come to realize a number of different things is that many people feel that the retention is truly a reflection of academic performance, and it really isn't. Academic performance does have impact on retention rate, but it truly isn't a reflection of it. One of the things that we do know is that student engagement is very important. And we are trying to enhance, especially with the strategic plan, things that we put in place. And we're just now kicking off the strategic plan the fall of 2020. But we are really looking at how do we engage and keep our students engaged with being able to come back that following year. One of the things that, as I always use at athletics and even the band and the music department, they have a really high retention rate because those students are engaged. So we really have to maximize our engagement with the students. The other thing is, again, providing support mechanisms for our students, academic support mechanisms, and we're ramping those up as we speak. But also, one of the things also that we realize finances have a lot to do with our students returning those following years. And if you can take a look at most of the other HBCUs as well, but I'm not trying to compare us to them, but you can see that those HBCUs also have a high number of Pell eligible students. And so those finances really play a major role in really those students returning back that next year. And so we're going to keep pushing and putting things in place and building upon the different things that we are doing. We also want to make sure that we are continuously looking for funding for these students to come back. Some of the things we're dealing right now with validation is that students don't have enough to pay for their education. As you can see, the number of students that we have registered or even attending class is far more than the 3,800 students that we're predicting. But again, most of those students will not be able to return because of the actual funding issues that they have. They want to be here, but they cannot return. And so we have to do a better job of, again, working with our state and federal government to get more Pell grant money for our students. We have to increase the engagement on with regards to making sure our students stay engaged. And again, we also have to, and we're working on as well, is increase the very types of innovative programs we have, not only academic programs, but also co-curricular activity programs. And our student engagement folks are doing a great job at that as well. And so we're going to keep pushing. And as you can see, each year, as Dr. Spencer was saying, is that each cohort comes in and we have to address them as well, as a whole. But we're going to keep pushing and keep making sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure students are successful. And so I wanted to talk a little bit on this particular slide about some retention efforts. I also want to tie this back to some of the strategic plan. And again, as we move forward, you'll see how the things that we've been doing tie back to the strategic plan. And as I mentioned before, we put a great strategic plan in place, and we're just kicking it off the fall of 2020. And so even when you take a look at our graduation rates for this past year, again, it actually, our projected graduation rate was going to be 45% in 2025. We had hit 46% already. And so we're going to continue those efforts to make sure that those graduation rates are maintained. But we also have to do a great job and become consistent with, as you see the ebbs and flows of the various percentages, Mr. Worley, we want to be consistent, and we want to be consistent with moving and maintaining that retention as well as graduation rate as we move forward. And so, diving into the data and really seeing what's working and what's not working, and really taking a very data-informed approach at how to get to that point is what we're looking at doing. And so if you take a look at some of the retention efforts that are currently taking place also right now, is that we're being very targeted with some of the efforts. We contacted over about 500 freshmen who have just failed one class, and really are providing them academic coaching. Strategic learning efforts, we've identified Smart Thinking, which is an online tutoring system where we have 24-hour online student support with over 50 subjects that students have access to. And also, as we were planning to open up for the fall, we have centralized our writing lab and our peer tutoring up into the 8th area. So we want to make sure that students don't have to go across campus to identify help. And we wanted to make sure that it's all centralized. And again, this is all part of our strategic plan, preeminence with purpose, priority number 3, and we're really fostering student success. Next slide, please. We're also looking at, okay, I think it, back up one there, Mr. Harris. Also, we partner with the Department of Athletics and providing group help sessions. The freshman orientation class that we implemented, a Myers-Briggs Super Strong assessment in the class to understand where their strengths are and to help them align their career choices with their strengths. We're actually helping to develop and certify our A staff to actually be able to deliver and actually work with the Myers-Briggs Super Strong assessment. We've also hooked our students up with peer mentors. And what we do know is that we can provide all the support and academic support for our students, but the peer mentors really have a major impact on each other. And so we've identified peer mentors for all freshmen to really impact that retention, Mr. Worley. And so we've identified all the honors program students are part of the peer mentors, as well as the student leaders and the Hill Fellows. They're all part of this peer mentor for all freshmen. And again, this aligns up with preeminence with purpose, our priority number 3. Next slide. Also, in addition, student success skill workshops are happening every second and fourth Tuesday and Thursday of each month. And we're providing topics of time management, becoming critical thinkers, and also getting ready for final exams are just a few of the things that we have in place. And this is happening remotely. And so, once they get back in face-to-face, again, we're going to ramp up these efforts as well. But again, this also ties back into our preeminence with purpose, objective number 3.1 of priority 3. Next slide, please. Are there any questions with some of the efforts that are taking place? I'm sorry, I'm about to transition into some of the things that have taken place.
Madam Chair, Dr. Palm, this is Greg Worley.
Yes.
And I have all the confidence in you in the world that you're going to be able to pull those things off. But there's one missing piece that you talked about, and that is fundraising. Because you started off your comment by saying retention is not all about the academics and what we're doing to keep them eligible, but rather also the financial implication of them being able to come back to school. So I hope that you've passed this concern over to the fundraising, the Institution Advancement Office, because that's another big concern of the alumni that they wrote in, is our fundraising ability is anemic, and we're not doing what we need to do. And that's something I think really needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I do know that our governmental relations, as well as Dr. Abdullah, are also working with the state as well as federal government as well, also to gather funds also for our students as well. And so thank you very much for that.
I have a comment.
And
Question.
hi.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for sharing all of the things that we're doing with retention. I think that's very, very important. And the first thing is a comment. I'm proud of the fact that our graduation rate is increasing. But when I look at the retention rate going down for the most recent classes, it suggests to me that it's going to become increasingly more difficult to maintain those graduation rates, correct?
Yeah, so what we're seeing, and it wasn't on the 2015, it looks like our graduation rate is going to probably be either at 46% or even above 46%. So it looks like it's going to increase. But as we look further,
I guess I'm talking about the more recent classes. When you look at the retention rate, if the retention rate is going down, for instance, 2018 and 2019, that suggests that it's going to be increasingly more difficult, more challenging. It's not impossible.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because again, on that slide, again, when we take a look at the decrease or even the retention rate of certain areas, we also saw an increase in graduation rate. And I'll tell you what that probably is due to is then those students did not return back that second year. But they just dropped out, but that didn't mean that they didn't come back. And so again, when they come back, if they were to come back, let's say the students did not return this fall, they did not get counted in our retention rate. But if they return back in the spring, they'll get counted in our graduation rate. And so
good to know that. Yes,
right.
In the future. Thank you.
But as you mentioned, it is a challenge. Yes.
Dr. Palm, can you go backwards? Because I think I'd like to show Mr. Richardson something.
Okay.
If you can go back to the retention and graduation, I think I understand his very direct question, and I want to make sure that we get right to it. So stop there for a second. So our lowest retention rate that we had was for the fall of 2013 class. That was reported in the fall of 2014, where the retention rate was 61%. Okay. Now go backwards to the graduation rate. That's the cohort for the fall of 2013. Can you go back to the graduation rate? So for the fall of 2013, the 6-year graduation rate was 38%. But if you look at the 4-year graduation rate, it was actually at 24%, which outperformed the previous 2 years, even though the retention rate for that year was one of the lowest that it's been. One of the things that we found, Mr. Richardson, is that retention rate does not always correlate directly to graduation rate. And I think it's because of what Dr. Palm talked about, in that the retention rate is not necessarily academically related. It's more of a fit related. But the number of students that graduated in 4 years from the fall of 2013 was greater than the number of students that graduated in 2012. And if you go back to the retention rate again, you'll see that was a real outlier for retention rate, but didn't necessarily, as you can see, the years surrounding it, 65, 73. And so that's another thing that we're studying is how do we find out what part of that is directly moving towards graduation rate, because it doesn't always seem like a straightforward relationship between retention rate and graduation rate.
But when I look at the six-year graduation rate, it was significantly lower than those other years. So
Yeah, it's
no
a moving
direct
target.
correlation. Bottom line is that no direct correlation.
Right.
So,
Well,
but I also wanted to ask, I mean, I appreciate all of the different programs and initiatives that we're doing. Are any of these considered to be best practices? Or I know that we're not the only person who's trying to invent the wheel, so no need in us reinventing the wheel if there's a successful program, particularly one at a public HBCU, for example. I noticed that you are doing peer mentoring, which is something that I've talked about for many years, and I know it's effective at UVA with African American students, such that they have the highest graduation rate of any public university. And as I said many times before, that program was developed by a VSU grad because she wanted to emulate what she experienced at VSU, well, then VSC. But are there any of the other initiatives here, things that have been shown to be best practices and successful at other institutions, as opposed to creating all new programs?
Well, no. So we are leveraging some of the best practices. We last year we implemented the first year. Well, we reinvigorated the first year experience course that we have a number of capable staff, alums as well, teaching that particular course to increase the engagement here at the university. We're tracking students better now as far as understanding who is at risk. Just send out an early alert to our faculty members this morning that they'll be getting an early alert to identify those students who are struggling in a class. So we'll allow our ACE as well as other advisors to reach out to them to actually help them within their class. And so many of the things we're doing is really best practices. Now, had a great conversation of what is working better than others, and we really need to dive down into that data when we provide a combination of different things and for our particular students. And so we're working on that data as we speak now as well.
And the last comment is something that goes back to what you first said, that one of the best indicators of retention perhaps is engagement. And what you were describing to me was more of engagement with, it actually goes back to something I heard in a meeting here, that a study of PSU's a faculty member done, that is engagement with, for lack of a better word, an adult. For instance, those athletic team members, fraternity and sorority, band, whatever, ROTC, when you're a member of some entity there where you have bonded with someone there who sort of holds you accountable, somebody that you develop a relationship with, isn't that sometimes a factor of student success and the retention? A lot of the kids who don't come back after the first year sometimes haven't developed a relationship, they're not accountable to anyone, so it's easy not to come back. I mean, I'm just putting it in layman's terms. If that's true, and that's what I heard a few years ago by some work that the faculty had done, do we think that we've built enough of that in these retention efforts?
So what I would tell you is that a lot of that is wrapped up in the strategic plan as we're moving forward. We are, again, our student success and engagement is doing an outstanding job. And so those types of structures are not fully in place, but they are working on them. The other thing that we're also working on are those live and learning communities. And so we had put about 6 live and learning communities in the strategic plan for year 2025. We had about 4 of them, well, actually 3 of them already ready to go for this fall until we kind of reverted back to online instruction. And so those live and learning communities also play a very important role with retention and as well as graduation rates as well. So we're taking a holistic approach on trying to address it. And so again, that input is so valuable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great work you're doing.
Thank you.
Dr. Palm, Madam Chair. I also wanted to say to Board Member Richardson, that is a part of the work that's done in the classroom. If you look at studies on the students' experiences with the HBCU, there's several things that impact. One, the ratio of students to professors, which allows that kind of in-person, face-to-face, that kind of more holistic engagement. And so I also, in addition to student success and engagement, I also want to say that a lot of that work is done in the classroom with us as professors holding our students accountable for being more empathic professors, more empathic teachers, where we look at the whole student, which is one of the reasons why we definitely advocate and we're encouraging the board and administration to make sure that we hold on to those professors who are providing that. When we say quality instruction, it's not just about like this like superficial quality instruction, but the professors who are able to really engage and help to nourish our students holistically. So I do want to give credit to my colleagues as well in the work that is being done in the classroom and the work that has to be done in the classroom to continue to foster our enrollment, retention, and graduation rates.
As the spouse of a former college faculty member, I know that to be very true. I commend you for all the doing. Thank you.
And we have some faculty who are doing an outstanding job with that.
Madam, Dr. Palm and Madam Chair, I'm gonna, I just got a call from my student and she's in a crisis. And so I am going to leave the meeting. And so officially, because of the concern about Dr. Sample and I'm going to pass the buck to Dr. Sample to take my seat so that I can address my student and then attend class at 11. I will be giving a report tomorrow and I will be calling Dr. Sample too. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope your student is okay. And Dr. Sample, thank you for joining us again.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can you move up a few slides there? Okay, right there. So again, I just wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I couldn't go another day without presenting to the board some of the great things that our faculty and staff and the university as a whole has done as we had really been impacted by COVID-19 and the pandemic. And one thing I would tell you is that it really showed the true spirit of Virginia State University, and that their commitment, but also just their true grit on really switching at the drop of a dime, and to really, within the last 3 months, I'm going to show you some things that has occurred within the various areas that is truly remarkable. And one thing that I indicated was that, adversity breeds inspiration, innovation, as well as opportunity to help move VSU forward. And so I would tell you that truly impressed. Things that have happened since COVID-19, Virginia State University will never be the same. We're going to be better off with some of the things that we have now moved forward, put in place. And so I just want to present some of that information to you all. But it really showed the true identity of Virginia State University with regards to their particular grit and their innovation. And so just in general, when we talk about innovation, I can't go without saying technology service has played a central part in moving Virginia State forward. Within the last 3 months, we have experienced network upgrades, physical security upgrades in IT, communication and collaboration. The fact that we're even having this meeting right now because of WebEx, Zoom, and Jabber. Data center modernization has taken place. Faculty and staff have received laptops. Those who need laptops to actually get their instruction off the ground are provided them, as well as hotspots. And we also provided computer stipends for our students. What we do know is that the COVID-19 kind of really exposed something we already knew was the digital divide, and that we wanted to make sure that we're providing our students the tools for them to be successful. If I was to tie this back to the strategic plan, Visitor Hill, again, it would be priority number 5. And we look at our strategic actions, which invest in innovative technology to improve efficiency and effectiveness of business and services. And so, again, tying all this back to the strategic plan and having that as a blueprint as we move forward with Virginia State University is very helpful. The next slide, please. As we looked at Office of Distance Education, I have to take my hat off to my Director of Distance Education, Dr. Tammy McLean-Smith, who just came here a little bit over a year ago. She has hit the ground running in addition to the Faculty Senate Technology Committee as well as IT working collaboratively to really help with the remote instruction that we had to stop on the dime in April and turn to remote instruction, leveraging faculty teaching ambassadors to help those faculty members who were not familiar with teaching online. We also launched a phenomenal web page for the VSU Online, which provides a lot of the different resources for our faculty to really help them with their online instruction, as well as workshops and many other things for our faculty to be successful in the classroom with online teaching. One of the major things, though, that I think is so important is the professional development that we have done over the summer. If you recall, I think we had a virtual meeting where we had about 89 faculty members who were certified to teach online. Well, I would tell you currently right now we have 204 faculty members who are approved to teach online because they were certified over the summer. And this is really a remarkable task for our faculty members. I'm so proud of them. Our faculty members, Mr. Worley, are off contract in the summer. So they had no obligation to the university during the summer to actually go through this certification process. But to have 115 of them go through the process is truly remarkable that actually helped prepare us for this particular semester as we had to resort to going totally online. And so the other thing that we also set up was a Children's Student Online Support. Again, this is for students who are having not only issues maybe with a little bit of the technology, but really navigating and helping to get to their professors or talking to a chair or really getting the advisement they need. This has proven to be very successful with, we've identified faculty members and staff members who have that gift to really connect with our students and that empathy to really work with them. We also identified student ambassadors to do the same thing. And again, this ties in with our priority number 2, sustained academic excellence. Next slide, please. And again, this is just a little table of what happened over the summer. You can see there was actually 180 faculty members that were enrolled in its certification program. 115 finished. Some are still pending, but we had over 70% of our faculty members that were completed with regarding the online certification, which I am very proud of, and I'm really, really thankful for our faculty members. Next slide, please. If we take a look at
Dr.
Yes.
Paul, I'm sorry. What about the ones that haven't completed?
Yes.
Is work ongoing, or
yes? So we
doing?
No, absolutely. So thank you very much for that. So we also plan for that. So for those faculty members who were not certified, we also have. If you go back one more slide, Mr. Harris, we also have something called the teaching ambassadors, which you'll see the faculty number 2 faculty teaching ambassadors. Those are certified instructors online that they are working with those faculty members and helping them with their Blackboard shell as well as delivery. And teaching them and helping them along the way if they have any questions or issues as a safety net. But we're also continuing the programs to have those faculty members certified this semester as they are also teaching classes. So we want to provide a safety net for those faculty members and provide them the actual support they need to be successful.
Good deal. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Very quickly, the College of Graduate Studies, Dr. Isis Walton actually spearheaded this with virtual thesis and dissertation defenses, thesis formatting sessions, virtual open house, Trojan Squared. Again, this was a program that she initiated to really take those students who were VSU or about to graduate from VSU and really pull them into our graduate program. So the square, that little 2 up above, is that you're a Virginia State alum or graduate 2 times. And so we're working on that as increasing enrollment for our graduate programs as well. And then we also had a virtual orientation, which again, this ties into our priority number 2. Next slide. Honors program, outstanding program. And again, virtual spring convocation where Ambassador Michael Battle gave a great address. We have also had virtual town halls where we have been working with VCU's medical school and with lead physician researchers who are mentoring our students. About 6 or 9 students actually have gone through the process, but they've been having virtual town halls every Friday during the summer. And so this has been very helpful, again, for those students who want to get into the medical profession. We're trying to provide them a a pipeline. And so we're really excited about that work that's being done there. We also had the Thurgood Marshall College Fund Fleischer's HBCU Scholars, which I would tell you, there's about 3 or 4 other Fleischer's HBCU programs at other HBCUs. Virginia State University was the only institution that held their summer program because of the work that Dr. Roberts, Dr. Aurelia Donald, as well as Dr. Hobson is doing with regards to our scholars in the program. This was a program in which we partnered with Reginald F. Lewis College of Business and actually developed, put on an entrepreneurial summer camp with 80 rising seniors in college and high school. We also provided them with a introduction to business course, 3 credits with our Trojan Advance. So now they have Virginia State University on their transcript, and we are looking to really bring those students as a pipeline as we talk about enrollment. These particular summer programs are actually helping out with that. The other thing I just want to mention that we had 3 other programs, 2 in agriculture as well as 1 in education, along with natural and health sciences. They were really doing STEM programs in which they also, on a drop of a dime, switched their programs to a remote and virtual platform. And that each program had a significant number of student participants. And then I think the education as well as the natural health science had about 5 programs within their program, impacting about 180 students over the summer in a virtual platform. And so you can see from a drop of a dime going from COVID to really ramping up, our faculty and staff have done a number of great things. Next slide, please.
Can I ask you a quick question about the
yes
program?
Yes.
I'm very impressed with that. Is it only limited to local rising seniors, or
yeah, this
has transportation to come?
Yeah, this is a national program.
What's that?
Yeah, no, this is a national program, and that
right.
Yeah, right. This is a national Fleischer's is a national program in which they had students from all the different states that were participating remotely. But if it was face to face, like it was last year, that they would bring them here on campus for a 1 or 2 week experience, on campus. And so, as I mentioned before, there was a number of them that kind of did not go forward with their program, but Dr. Roberts and his staff were able to, on a drop of a dime, move forward with it. So, beautiful effort.
You apply through the foundation, Thurgood Marshall Foundation.
Actually, Virginia State University, and I'll get you connected with Dr. Roberts, because again, they do all the recruiting and also. Yeah. Very welcome. Very welcome. Also, career services again launched Handshake, and again, this is a platform to really help hiring the right talent. It also impacts for our students, but also young alumni who just graduated. And I just need to give a shout out to Mr. Lyons, who's a happy camper. He's conducting a virtual career expo as we speak right now on STEM and business. And so he's working very hard on a virtual expo for our students. And again, this ties in with our preeminence purpose priority number 3. And again, this transformative VSU experience and a holistic development of our students. So next slide, please. Academic Center of Excellence, again, they, on the drop of a dime, 30 virtual group advisement sessions that impacted 951 students who participated. They also automated Quadtrex to really gather information from our students and also concerns. Created 1,100 schedules for new students online. And also, again, we talked about smart thinking, which is a virtual tutoring for all subjects. Next slide, please. Enrollment management, again, Mr. Hall and his staff, again, along with the Emmy Award-winning, our Emmy Award-winning, what is
Jesse Vaughn.
Jesse Vaughn.
Right.
Jesse's gonna kill me about that. But Jesse Vaughn and Mr. Hall had put together a virtual tour video for our students. Also, they've done online orientation as well as online validation, which we're still working through some of the issues with the online validation. But again, their staff stepped up and they are working diligently with this innovation as we move forward. Next slide. Registrar's Office developed electronic fillable forms. Now, Mr. Roller, we have e-transcripts where you can order your transcripts online. This is, again, we were able to kick that off in the spring, but again, just on a drop of a dime. Just the innovation that has taken place here at Virginia State University is crazy. The VSU emergency grading option for our students through the registrar's office, also a virtual commencement, as well as online ordering of commencement regalia. And Ms. Wynn, also Anita Wynn, had a lot to do with that and making sure that happened. But again, it ties into our priority number 5. Next slide, please. University Library, contact-free checkout and pickup, our ebooks, and also a virtual reference and research consultation. I also just want to mention and welcome aboard Ms. Tessa Perry, who is now the interim librarian, Dean of Libraries, who has taken over for the retired Dr. Weatherington. Also, I just want to mention also that we do have a new interim registrar, Ms. Nidra Jones, who has actually taken over for Deborah Bonner, who has served that position very well. Next slide, please. Student Health Center, again, we have enhanced the social media, the Student Health Twitter page. It also helped to provide updates on COVID-19 testing sites. And also very important to us is the Medicat electronic health record system. Our staff had virtual training and updates. Students can now upload their health forms into the Medicat system. And this system will help us really maintain compliance with all the different things we have to do within the Student Health Center. Also want to make sure I recognize our new Director of Student Health, Ms. Danica Clemens, who has just come on board and has taken over and is really doing a great job, has hit the ground running. And also just want to recognize a nurse, Christy Johnson Oliver, who has done a wonderful job, has worked through all of this stuff over the summer dealing with COVID-19. They have a great staff over there, and they're looking and they're willing to keep working hard to move the university forward. Of course, this impacts priority number 3. And again, developing programs and activities that support student health, safety, and physical and mental and emotional health. Next slide, please. Counseling Center, of course, Dr. Ellison is doing a great job over there as well. Of course, they completed telebehavioral healthcare training for their staff, all their staff, the use of Zoom for counseling services, mobile check-ins, and also they had a number of programs that they had, therapy assistance online, which is self-help for the VSU community, which will help everybody in the VSU community if they need that particular type of counseling or help. Of course, as you can see, it impacts priority number 3, objective 3.3. Next slide, please. I'm going to let Ms. Barnett Tyler take over. Move back one more slide, Hubie. All right, Regina, do you want to? I'm going to go ahead and tag you, and you can talk about some of the great things that are going on in student activities.
All right, yes, sir. Thank you. The baton has been received. Madam Chair, Rector Winstead, good morning to you all, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present. I was really excited to hear about student engagement and retention earlier, because we do know that student engagement is extremely important to the overall retention, and sometimes it's difficult to quantify, but we do know that it is very important. So although we are in this remote environment, I can say that the student engagement is at an all-time high level, considering the circumstances. And to coin the phrase of one of my colleagues, we are building the ship as we fly it, I should say, the plane. But we are doing a phenomenal amount of work. So within the Department of Student Activities, we did report previously about the virtual SGA and Royal Court elections, and those were very successful, with really good numbers of participation, as well as the Mr. and Miss VSU pageant. There were other programs and activities like So You Think You Can Dance and So You Think You Can Sing. We also conducted parent and student town hall meetings that were extremely engaging, particularly the parent involvement, which is a piece that we really want to amp up more. And the parents were very excited about having the meeting. We've also created an alert for the parents, so that when we send important information to the students' emails, the parents actually get an alert to say that your Trojan has received some information. Please check with them to get that information. So we're excited about that piece. Our student conduct director and her team has done a great job with converting the student hearings to a virtual environment. This actually started before we left last semester and continued on through the summer. So Ms. Braxton and her team have done a really good job with that. Mr. Peterson, the Director of Student Housing, as Dr. Palm said, on a dime, converted all of the housing information into electronic documents, and have been very, very innovative with reaching our students through electronic means. And as Dr. Palm has done, we want to make sure that we connect all of our activities and initiatives with our strategic plan. And these efforts support priority 3, providing a transformative experience. Mr. Harris, next slide, please. So for the fall semester, we were unable to come on campus, but it was still very important to connect with our student leaders, as we are going to heavily rely upon them for support with the virtual student engagement. And so every year we have a student leadership retreat that's about 4 days. And Mr. Perry and the student activities team, as well as leadership throughout campus, put together a really detailed training for all of our student leaders. And the student leadership is all of the SGA, the Royal Court, and presidents of every registered student organization. And generally that is about 100, as well as the RAs and the GAs. And it's generally about 150 to 160 student leaders that we bring on campus. And as you can see with this slide, the workshops that were offered this year were just top notch. The Title IX laws were a workshop was conducted by our Title IX coordinator. And as you know, there have been some significant changes in the Title IX laws. So she did a really good job with providing updates for our students so that they can be knowledgeable of the Title IX. Dr. Ellison, the Director of University Counseling, Mr. Crawley, who is a housing coordinator in Residence Life, conducted a workshop in effective communication. And Mr. Lyons certainly reintroduced the handshake software, as well as talked about the importance of your networking and conducting the workshop with utilizing LinkedIn social media. That was they all were really good workshops, but that one was particularly interesting because LinkedIn is so vital to our students' networking. Mr. Peterson also provided some motivation about seeing it through and the importance of following up. Our student leaders understanding the importance of seeing something through, following up, and not giving up on your assignments. We also were excited to have an alum motivational speaker, Mr. Javon Galbert, that is a community activist and has done some really good things in our community regarding activism and protest. And he actually planned to organize the Black Lives Matter march through the city of Colonial Heights in Petersburg. So again, that was a wonderful event. And again, we've attached all of our activities to priority 3. Next slide, please, Mr. Harris. So as Dr. Palm also alluded to, the different offices, departments within student success and engagement have done a lot to continue the engagement. We created the virtual welcome week for our freshman students. So if the students were to come back, they would have been here a week and a couple of days before everyone else. And our welcome week opportunities are workshops and making sure students understand technology and how to access Banner. But they also get a mentor, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. With the student activities, we continue with virtual activities with our Royal Court. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Royal Court was on campus to actually record the coronation. So that's going to be new, and I think that's going to air the first part of next month. And Mr. Perry and his team did a phenomenal job, but it was also a special treat for us to see some of the students. I wanted to hug them so bad yesterday when I went over to check on them, but it was really good to see our students. So with our student leaders, the ACE team, Mr. Perry, and some other, Mr. Peterson, we all got together to try to figure out how we could actually connect the student leaders with the freshmen like we would if they were here on campus. So we pulled together a meeting, and we have actually assigned maybe about 90% of the student leaders with between 8 and 13 freshman students. And so Dr. Brooks Walters and her team in ACE actually created a list, broke it down. Some of the students have their mentors or their bigs, which is what we're going to call them, a big brother or big sister, either by major or by hometown. And I think we had a little over 600 freshmen that we have identified, and the student leaders are well on their way with the connections with their littles. So we're really excited about that connection that's really going to help support student engagement as well as help the freshmen with things like utilizing their university emails, making sure they understand how to use Blackboard and Banner, and all of those things to give them a little bit of a student touch and a personable touch. So we're really excited about that. And hopefully that next board meeting, we will actually have some numbers and some data for you to see the level of engagement that this initiative has done. Again, our Student Government Association, Mr. Cameron Gray, and the executive board, we actually met last night, and we are planning the virtual town hall for next month, as well as a joint administration meeting. And again, this is in a virtual environment, so we are planning those activities. The President's Advisory Board for LGBTQIA Diversity and Inclusion is extremely important because we want to make sure that we educate students, faculty, and staff about the importance of being inclusive, using appropriate language, and making sure that everyone understands that all Trojans are important. October 1st marks the start of Pride Month, and so we're going to have some different activities planned for that. We actually now have our own Pride flag that we will launch on October 1st. Last year we borrowed it, this year we own it, so I'm excited about that. And then we will announce all of the different activities that we will have for Pride Month. And then we have the newly funded Student Support Services Program, and I am extremely excited about that because this was a hard-fought fight to bring this grant opportunity back to Virginia State University. SSS was here 10 years ago, and unfortunately we were defunded, and now we have that back. We're able to serve 140 low-income first-generation students. So as Ms. Carey alluded to earlier, this is very important because we now have a program that will be working with low-income first-generation students and students with disability in an intentional capacity. And the SSS program, the goal of the SSS program is to increase retention and graduation rates for underrepresented students. So we're very excited about that. And I'll take a personal privilege to pop my collar as the executive director of the TRIO programs to add to the level of TRIO programs that we now have at Virginia State University. And this is probably one of a few community engagement activities where we have 3 pre-college programs and now a college level TRIO program where we serve over, we will now serve over 1,700 low-income first-generation students. So we're excited about that.
That's outstanding. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Ms. Curry. I'm really excited about that. Forgive me if I take a moment to brag. But again, thank you for the opportunity to present to you. I always take, I want to take this moment to say thank you. It is an honor to serve Virginia State University, as this is, I am Trojan squared. So I do like that terminology. Where I have my undergraduate and graduate degree, but it is a point of privilege to work with this body of board members, faculty, and staff. So thank you. Dr. Palm?
Regina,
thank you. And it's a privilege to have you with us. Thank you. Dr. Palm?
Thank you. And Regina, thank you for that energy. Again, you are doing an outstanding job. Being Trojan squared, and again, you've hit the ground running, and I won't tell you of all the trauma, tell them of all the trauma you went through, jumping into the fire and being baptized by fire, but you've done a great job, so thank you very much, Regina, as well as your team.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Madam Chair, next I just wanted to just give an update on some of the new program submissions. So programs pending approval for October, this October, again, the MSW Social Work Program and BS Sport Management has been submitted to SHEV, and that's actually pending approval by SHEV, and we should hear something this fall regarding that. We also submitted several programs that the board, of course, the board has approved those last year. We also submitted a few programs September 1st to SHEV that the board had approved last year as well. That is the MBA in Business Administration and Management, as well as the MS in Data Analytics and Engineering, as well as the EDS, the Specialist Education degree. What I would tell you is that this is actually for the public announcement of the actual programs. I did get notice last night from SHEV that they were approved for public announcement. Next step is that these programs will be full proposals will be submitted in December. They will meet, SHEV will meet again sometime in the spring with regards to approval of the program. And if all goes well, these programs, besides the few that may have to go through SAC's approval, will be ready to launch in the fall of 2021. And again, this goes back to our preeminence with purpose, sustain academic excellence, and it's also pursuing implement programs that define our niche and prepare our target population to meet the demands of global society and workforce. And so again, we are moving forward with those particular programs that the board had approved. Next slide, please. You can skip that slide as well. Next, I want to talk about something I'm very, very proud about and happy for. The Outstanding Faculty Award, working closely with the Faculty Senate, of course, the leadership of the Faculty Senate, Dr. Maxine Sample. We've been working with them for the last few years to really recognize the outstanding job our faculty are doing here at the university. And we really wanted to recognize those faculty who are demonstrating excellence in teaching, research, and scholarly achievement, as well as community service. And so in doing that, the Faculty Senate had identified two standard awards, the Rising Star Award, as well as the Star Award. The Rising Star Award is for those tenure track faculty, and there will be 4 honorees. And also there's the Star Award, which is for tenured faculty, those faculty members who already went through the tenure process. The tenure track faculty for those new board members are those ones who are pursuing tenure. The tenured faculty are those who've gone through the process. There'll be 4 honorees each. There'll be a honoree in at least 3 of the categories of excellence in teaching, outstanding research, as well as university community service. And then we'll have the 4th one, which would be really the Stellar Award, in which actually whether a tenure track faculty member or a tenure faculty member really embellishes all of those particular areas of excellence in teaching, research, as well as in community service. As you can see, there's a monetary gift that comes along with it, as well as a plaque. We also want to recognize the faculty members, and we're looking at to not only recognize them during commencement, but also during an opening conference. And again, this really ties into our priority number 2. We want to hire, develop, and retain talented and renowned faculty. And again, this is the opportunity to help develop them, but also retain those faculty members who are really demonstrating excellence in all these particular areas. And so we're really excited about that. I know this was a long haul for Dr. Sample. Myself and Dr. Abdullah kept pushing them for it, and they actually delivered it. So they've helped to deliver it, and we'll help support it. Next slide, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Sample, for your work on this.
You're welcome, and thank you, Dr. Palm.
You're very welcome.
So Dr. Palm, in reference to that last slide, this is Greg Worley.
Yes.
And I applaud you for recognizing the professors. This is not quite related to this, but it's in the theme of recognition. If I understood the last presentation, we are pairing up some of our student leaders to like 8 to 13 freshman students and trying to help them through the process, becoming freshmen at VSU, and particularly during this pandemic time. Are there any plans and work to reward or recognize those student leaders who are trying to help our new freshmen join VSU?
Yeah, so there's a cadre of student leaders that are helping out in those particular areas. What I would tell you is that Dr. Brooks Walter has also helped organize a lot of this. The Hill Fellows are doing an outstanding job, and of course they're recognized as Hill Fellows. the honor students who are doing this also, and I think it's important to get to your point though, but the honor students who are doing it, and some of them are receiving stipends as well as part of their service. They're receiving certain stipends, and of course we didn't have the student leaders. But I think you're right. I think that bringing all those students together to recognize them in general, whether it be at the end of the semester, it's going to be very important as well. And so there's no program that's recognizing them all together, but I think that will really help motivate them to continue to doing the great things they're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Post-tenure review process. Okay, so Madam Chair, this is the action item, and again, I won't go into the detail of the actual policy, but again, just want to give you an overview and then make a recommendation for moving it forward for approval for the full board. But again, this is a particular process that the Appropriations Act of 1996 General Assembly has kind of pushed forward. The Faculty Senate has been working on this for some time. As Dr. Sample had told me, it was completed in 2015, but again, it was brought back to my attention in 2000. Well, actually, at the beginning of this summer, and so I wanted to bring it forward to you. But this particular post-tenure review process ensures that the tenure faculty remain productive, and again, teaching, scholarly research, as well as professional service. As you know, that the board is responsible for approving tenure and promotion for our faculty. And so after they get tenure, what is there in place to make sure that they continue their productivity and also their commitment to the mission and goals of the university? Well, it's this post-tenure review process that has been put in place. And the intent is really truly to continue professional development for our faculty. And so if for some reason there's some trigger points, if for some reason a faculty member gets 2 poor evaluations back to back in given years, then it will trigger the post-tenure review process for those faculty. And so there's a number of steps, there's a developmental plan for those faculty members to actually implement in their teaching, research, and scholarly activity. It'll be actually headed up by the chair of the department, but also be monitored by other faculty as well. The other trigger is that if you have 3 evaluations in a 5-year span, that it'll also trigger the post-tenure review process. So again, this is something that is so important for our faculty members to stay productive, but also show their commitment to the mission and goals of the university. It has gone through all the appropriate processes from the Faculty Senate to my office, and now I'm presenting this to the board for consideration for recommended to the full board for approval. And again, this also ties into priority number 2, sustain academic excellence, with really maintaining and retaining and really developing those faculty members who need the development to make sure that they're productive. So, Madam Chair, I would ask that you consider this for a recommendation for approval.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Mr. Worley?
I do have a couple questions. Number one, if this was approved by the General Assembly in 1996, why are we just getting to it today?
Yeah, so what I would tell you is that, and again, Dr. Sample may be able to chime in. This was just brought to my attention in the 2020, May 2020. And so as soon as it was brought to my attention, I wanted to bring it forward. But Dr. Sample can probably give you some of the background because it had to come through the Faculty Senate. So I'll let her maybe chime in on that.
Yes, Mr. Worley, thank you for your question. And also, Dr. Plum, thank you for supporting this initiative. What happened is that in the current edition of the handbook, which is the last revised in 2013, there does exist a post-tenure review process. So since that time, there was a task force on faculty evaluation that was reviewing all components of faculty evaluation, and the post-tenure review process was one of the components of that we sought to address. And so actually the document that was received, let me turn this on so you can see me. The document that was received actually should say that it was a revision of the 2013 policy that's in the handbook. The fact is that the document, I think, that was sent out to the members of the board just did not appear on the policy template that the Office of the Provost has. So Dr. Palm, if you would like me to assist in putting that on that template, I'll be happy to do that. So there should be a notation at the bottom that this is a revision of the 2013 policy. And it should have the appropriate dates and signatories for approval. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's the background.
Madam Chair, that helps. That answers that question. And maybe it was just me, but I only received one page of the proposed policy. Is that? Did other members get the entire policy, or was it just me?
It should have been at least 2 pages. I'll check with
I have 2 pages, but
well, let me tell you the reason I asked the question. Because when you look at the resolution, and the whereas in the resolution said that there are 3 things that a professor had to do regarding this post-tenure review process. I went back to the policy itself to look for those 3 items, and it wasn't there. So that led me to believe that the policy is actually longer than what we received.
If you receive 1 page, then for some reason you didn't get the full policy. So I'll try to reconcile that with Dr. Red. Hey, did you receive 2, Visitor Curry?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Like 1.5.
Yeah.
Not 2 full pages, but 1.5.
Madam Chair.
Resolution.
Madam Chair, the policy is actually 5 pages long. And so
must get cut off.
So maybe you received like the beginning paragraphs that gave an overview of the policy, and maybe the final part where it explains how the post-tenure review process has either been satisfied some kind of way, either by a willingness of the faculty member to develop a plan, have it approved by the peers and the administration, or not develop a plan, leave the university, or whatever the strategy is. So maybe the members of the board received the beginning and the end, but there's something in the middle of the 2 slices of bread that constitutes more details about how the policy works. But I presume that all of that would be on the appropriate template that Dr. Palm can provide.
Yeah, I'll follow back with Dr. Red and Mr. Worley to make sure that you have that.
Well, yeah, and I think maybe if in diligent, we could make sure that the whole thing is in there for the permanent record.
Yes.
If there's some way to do that tonight.
Yes, I'll do it as soon as we get off the phone.
Before we vote on it. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, because I would think that before the rector signs off on it, he would like to see all pages of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Worley, for recognizing that.
Yeah, and Dr. Palm, if you could just give me an overview of what are the major changes from the 2013 policy to the proposed policy that we will be getting?
Yeah, so I did not get the tracks for that particular policy, and again, I think that Maxine, do you want to go ahead and comment on that?
Yes, thank you. I'll be happy to comment on that. The policy that had existed in the original handbook, which I think was dated 2003 or 4, and was carried over into the 2013 revision, policy had some flaws, and the policy actually was instrumental in, or the reaction to the policy was instrumental in the AAUP sanction that VSU received some years ago. And also the revision is an attempt to, address some of the problems. And there were 2 problems in particular. One is that the period for working on a plan of development, a plan of improvement was just not realistic for an academic to say that you had a bad evaluation, bad evaluation could trigger post tenure review, and it was a process that was not inclusive of the peers, the faculty members' peers. So the process, the revision actually attempted to address some of the problems that the old policy had. The inclusion of faculty peers, the recognition that it wasn't punitive, it's really about developing the faculty and strengthening the faculty and not, and I got your moment. And so it fit in the context of where the university wanted to go in terms of assisting faculty with professional development. So it addressed a number of those issues, Mr. Worley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Visitor Curry, I'll make sure I get that PDF to you with regards to the actual full one. I don't know what happened with the total policy itself, so I'll make sure I get that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I believe Mr. Harris, one more slide. I think that is my report. Thank you.
So let me just check.
So
yeah, what?
So that is my report. And again, at least with my report, and then there's a few other things on the agenda that we might want to move forward to again. So.
Right. And I just wanted to check for, I don't know, Dr. Red, if you're there. Logistically, do we need to have a motion on the resolution, or does that wait until the full meeting? Or Mr. Rector, I don't know. I never get all of this right.
Madam Chair, I think we can wait until the full meeting, until we've gotten the additional pages of the resolution.
Excellent. That would be, I'm sure, everyone's preference. So we will delay that until then. We have on the agenda a discussion of the Faculty Senate resolution. I'm sorry that Dr. Spencer is not there, because Dr. Palm and I had talked about this item, and I think Dr. Palm, did you want to talk about that? And also the new initiative, I think, that Dr. Spencer's been so involved in. I had wanted to ask her about that. So yeah. I don't know if Dr. Sample is comfortable with all of that, or what we want to do.
Well, I think Dr. Sample may be able to chime in with regards to the Faculty Senate resolution.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, I think I heard someone.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying yes, that I could.
Okay, yes.
Good deal then.
And
so
again,
I think everybody's...
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think everybody received the Faculty Senate resolution, and we talked at the last meeting that we were going to revisit it at this meeting, so that what we're doing here, and it's obviously appropriate to hear from our Faculty Senate representative.
Right, and so
Dr. Palm, anything else?
Yeah, no, just real quick, that we had a healthy discussion with our Faculty Senate and went through the items of the resolution and had a great discussion and talked about some things. There's some things we agreed on, some things we disagreed on, but I think at the end of the day, again, the intent was genuine to really meet with the Faculty Senate and really just discuss the resolution. So, Dr. Sample, do you want to chime in?
Yes, I want to echo the comments that Dr. Palm made. We did discuss it at length at the Faculty Senate meeting on Friday, and we walked through it item by item. And essentially, that's what the Faculty Senate was asking for, an opportunity to discuss the resolution and talk about the administrative responses to some of the points that were suggested. So it's our understanding that there will be an ongoing effort to address items in the resolution, and we understood that the president has charged the provost with overseeing a working group that will address those issues. And so we're content with the progress so far.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay. Well,
So,
I thank
Madam
you all
Chair,
for working together. Yes, Mr. Worley?
Madam Chair, this is Greg Worley. So when would there be a report back to the board on the results of the actions taken to address this resolution from that working committee?
I'm a little confused with.
It's my understanding that you have a resolution that has about 7 items in it, and that you have a working committee established to address these items, working with the faculty. My question was, when will there be a report back to the board on the results of that working group?
So,
Dr. Palm, do you all have a timeline?
No, we
Did
don't.
you all establish
No,
a timeline? Okay.
so what came out of the meeting is that as we move forward, and if there's any other budget reductions, this is the working committee that she's talking about. If there's are any other further budget reductions, that a committee will be established, and that the one that the president had mentioned to really work through the various types of discussions with recommendations for budget reductions or right sizing of the institution. And so it's going to be an ongoing committee that we will be working together. So as we take a look at the future of Virginia State University, that the faculty and staff and students will be involved in the process. And so that's really what is coming out of that. And so it's basically a charge to move forward, that they will be involved in the process.
So when I'm reviewing any budget reductions or potential budget reductions to a budget, then I should ask the question, has this been reviewed by that working group, and is there agreement? Is that what you're telling me?
So the working group, again, will be put together to take a look at and actually provide recommendations. Now, there may not be an agreement, but again, they'll be a part of the process. And I think that's truly what everybody's asking to be, is that shared governance, to be transparent, to be part of a process with regards to working together, looking at the same things to identifying efficiencies as well as opportunities. And so moving forward, that's what this group will actually be a part of doing, is taking a look at things and providing recommendations to the administration to address anything that moves forward with the university. And again, this is all in part of shared governance, and what shared governance is about.
Madam Chair, if I may add to that, so it was the understanding that I got from our discussion at the Faculty Senate was that a body of people that would include not only faculty but also staff and perhaps student leadership. No, I'm not sure about student leadership, but that there will be some entity, a group that would be established, and they would work in concert with the administration as they moved forward in making recommendations for the coming semester. So I'm not sure exactly. Again, you asked about a timetable. I'm not. We didn't really talk about a timetable, but I think the impression that the faculty got was that there would be a group established at some point in the future, and then everything else that Dr. Palm said about what their charge would be or what their participation would be is how we understand it. But my understanding is that the resolution called for some kind of an entity, a group. And so it's my understanding that that will materialize, but I'm not sure when. So that was it. So to raise a calendar question to me is legitimate at this point.
Well, let's just plan to have an update on this and the work of the group or groups at the November meeting. Would that work? And we'll just periodically, and just an update. I'm not saying a specific deliverable, but an update on what's going on so that this stays top of mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think November would be good for an update. However, the reason I raised the issue, this resolution is dated in June. And I think there are a number of things or reorganizations that have probably taken place since June. And I'm gathering that the staff really haven't, or the Senate or the faculty really haven't been involved in those items. So I just suggest that there's a sense of urgency here because we're going through one of the most difficult times this university has ever had. And we need to make certain that all of the players are at the table to really guide us through this challenge that we're facing. So I do want to impress upon the group that there is a sense of urgency in establishing this work group.
Okay, Dr. Palm, you got that?
Got it.
Got it. All right. One of the other things that Dr. Palm and I sort of just talked about, because I noticed on Facebook, the law enforcement task force but I think Dr. Spencer was specifically working with that group. So should we wait, or
Yes,
Dr. Sample, do you want to talk about it, or I think
No, Madam Chair, I'm not prepared to talk about her project. So she'll be at the meeting tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
I think she has a class at 2, so I'm not sure. She'll probably be there later. So
okay, would you mention to her that we sort of, it's my fault, sort of impromptu. You know, I look at social media and I see that, and it was a very positive thing for Virginia State. So would love to have her include that in her comments if she could.
Okay. Yes, I will mention
Thank
that
you.
to her. Mm-hmm.
Okay, public safety update. I'm assuming that with virtually no students on campus, that you probably don't have a lot to report. Mr. Harris, do we have anything we need to report?
We do have a couple informational items, and we'll
Okay.
follow up with a detailed report for the November meeting, ma'am.
Okay.
One of the things that we had received appropriation for a couple years ago was the police radio upgrade. All of the vehicles have now been updated with the new digital radio system. And so our police are fully equipped to be able to communicate with other departments. We've also introduced a new vehicle computer technology in the vehicles as well. In years past, the police would actually need to go into the station and sit down at a computer inside and complete a report. Now they're able to do that work in the field. We've also, during the pandemic, we've have completed the computer-aided dispatch program. So that ties directly into the dispatchers being able to see which unit is the closest to respond to a particular incident, whether that be here on campus or nearby within the Chesterfield County vicinity. We've also kicked off our vehicle registration system. That was something that we had received some audit points on, and we are basically addressing that system with a newer, upgraded version. We kicked that off 2 weeks ago. In our November report, we'll give you more details along with some screenshots so that the board can see what those things look like. And that concludes my report.
Excellent. Mr. Gray, Cameron Gray, our student representative, I believe, is on the call. I don't know if it's visually or just on the phone, but wanted to acknowledge Cameron's presence. And also there is a presentation that's been loaded into Diligent, I believe, from Cameron. And that presentation would typically be made at the full board meeting tomorrow, not at the committee meeting. So, and I'm not sure if Cameron, if his presentation has been loaded or not. I was looking at the wrong thing. But Cameron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
His presentation has been loaded, Ms. Curry.
Okay, perfect. So we can take a look at that, and then Cameron, thank you for being part of the meeting, and we'll hear your presentation tomorrow, if that works. Okay. I am told that we need to go back and do an actual voice vote, a roll call vote instead of just the voice vote on the approval of the minutes and the selection of the vice chair. So Dr. Redd, are you there? So we had a motion and a second on each of those. I don't know if you captured that or if we need to do it again.
Yes, let's do it again, please.
Okay, so could I have, all right, could I have a motion for the minutes, approval of the minutes?
This is Bill Murray, so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. And the second is Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
All right, if you want to do roll call.
Okay. Ms. Pamela Curry?
Aye.
Dr. Christine Darden?
Aye.
Mr. Charlie Hill?
Aye.
Mr. William Murray?
Aye.
Mr. Xavier Richardson?
Aye.
Mr. Wayne Turnage? Mr. Gregory Worley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I could have a motion to elect Dr. Christine Darden as vice chair for the committee?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
That I nominate Dr. Darden to fill the role of vice chair of this distinguished committee.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second, this is Bill, second.
Thank you, Bill. So we could do a vote.
Ms. Pamela Curry?
Aye.
Dr. Christine Darden?
Aye.
Mr. Charlie Hill?
Aye.
Mr. William Murray?
Aye.
Mr. Xavier Richardson?
Aye.
Mr. Wayne Turnage? Mr. Gregory Worley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just a follow up, Cameron's presentation begins on page 78 in Diligent, if that's helpful. Is there any other business have I missed something? Is there other business to bring before the committee?
Madam Chair, this is Greg Worley. I would like to get an update, and maybe we can do that at the next meeting, on where do we stand with the climate survey. As you know, we've been trying to do that for a while, and if we could get an update on that, I appreciate it.
Okay, we will do that. All right, is there anything else? Okay, I would take a motion for adjournment, and I would note that this committee has completed its business within 2 minutes of our allotted time, in spite of our technology issues, or probably it's my issue, not technology. But so I'd take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you all. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and institutional advancement folks later this afternoon.
See you then.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Palm. Thanks, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Redd, everybody.
Do we stay on the same Zoom link for the Institutional Advancement Committee?
I think there's a separate invitation for it, Mr. Worley.
Yes, that is correct. A separate invitation.
Could you send me that invitation? I'm not certain that I got that one.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.